and we know this is what we're meant to do. So we wake up, put our feet on the floor, go and conquer the day like a warrior, like warriors. Cause that's what a tribe does. We got your back so you can relax and focus on all the important stuff, like getting your business done. This is our tribe. We look out for each other. That's right, that's right. This is our tribe. We help each other grow in business and life. That's right, that's right. No need to panic anymore. We got lots of support and an army of warriors by our side. We fight the good fight when we unite. We fight the good fight when we unite. Cause that's what a tribe does. We got your back so you can relax and focus on all the important stuff, like getting your business done. This is our tribe. We look out for each other. That's right, that's right. This is our tribe. We help each other grow in business and life. That's right.
Hey everybody, my name is Sondra Ray, and I have the pleasure of being the host of the Coffee Chat show. And I am here with the amazing members of Explore ProTech. And today we are talking about exit strategies for entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs need to think about this because you never know when you would want to sell your business, or I don't know, something happens in your life and you need to quickly get out of the business you're doing, or maybe you're a partner in a business. So of course we had to bring back our amazing Explore ProTech lawyer to talk about all these things, because that is definitely not our expertise at all. Good evening, Nicolene. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Getting tongue-tied. Obviously, it's Monday, so that's fine. That's normal. All right. Why don't you educate us on some of these things, because that's definitely something that I definitely do not fully know.
Great. So yes, thank you for having me. And today's topic is actually quite a big one, because exit could mean different things to different people. In the most narrow sense, it means my time is up in my business and it's time for me to transition out. That could be because maybe it's time to take a bit of a step back. Maybe you want to move on to something different, something else, and it would mean that you would be selling the business as a whole, or a large part of it at the very least. It could also mean that you are a partner in a business, and maybe more than one business, and you want to maybe only focus on a single one to a larger extent, and therefore you may want to sell the other portions or shareholdings that you have. It could also mean you're in a family business and the time has come to bring in the next generation of the family into the inner dealings and the decision making and the business of the business. Or it could mean that we've seen an opportunity, maybe a competitor or a joint venture partner, and we want to merge our business with theirs. And in some way, that would mean that life as we know it would exit in that context. So it could really mean different things to different people. You also get many entrepreneurs that start businesses for the sole purpose of building them and selling them. So I think it's something different to each of us, but whether it means handing over the baton, whether it means consolidation or a pure raw exit as such, it depends on the situation at hand. And every one of these options would have different considerations to keep in mind as we are navigating our way through this.
I love that. I love the fact that you said it's not a one size fits all. It really depends on where you're at in your business, what you're wanting to do. And yes, one of my first entrepreneur, actually, she was my very first coaching client. That was her thing. Start them, sell them, start or sell them. I think she had sold like 10 by then, and that was in 2018. So I know she started and sold many, many, many of them. So there are people that's their sole purpose. Start a business, sell it, start a business, sell it. And I think it's not it's more common than you think, I think for sure. For sure. Um, when people are looking about exiting, no, is there is it should they always go to a lawyer first, or is it like do your research then go to a lawyer? Like kind of like what would be like the first step if you're wanting to get out of whatever situation you're in?
I think it depends why you want to get out. I think that's one of the golden nuggets. I think we need to reflect if this is something one wants to explore, is why we want to exit. Because why the driver of why you want to do what we are going to explore doing will really determine the mechanism that we use. So if, for example, it's a question of wanting to cut back on responsibilities and handing over the baton, but it's not in a family context, we may need to help you build the structure so that that actually becomes replicable and possible. Similarly, if we are looking at a generation coming in and the baton passing within the family context, the family beyond the business dealings would need to have a bit of a roadmap. Many of us call this the family constitution. There are different words across the world for what we call this, but essentially it's a roadmap as a family unit where we want to go and what our aspirations are. And the business is just one of the puzzle pieces within that greater dynamical context. It could also be that we just don't want to do this anymore, and maybe something hasn't worked out well, which means we'll have to have some tough conversations. So I think the first step is really, why do I want to exit? And what does exit mean? Is it passing the baton? Is it scaling down? Or is it completely, I'm done with this? I'm done with this. I've built this business. It's something I can sell. Or, and what do I want to get? What do I think life is going to look like once this is done? And then we sort of work our way backwards to make sure that it's possible to get that done.
I love that. I love that. I am very big on whys. Why are you doing this? Why do you want to do this? And what are the outcomes as a performance and goal coach? It's extremely important to know that not the just because, or I seen it on social media, or so and so told me so. All those things. As a business owner, I think it's super important for you to know your why and why you're doing things and the outcome.
Absolutely.
Mr. Peter, good evening, sir. Come on in.
Good evening. Yeah, I think life is just full of choices, and in order to make a choice or a decision, you need to be informed. And the way to be informed is to have all your ducks in a row. If your ducks are not in a row, then you are ill-informed and you will make stupid choices based on the lack of information. It's just how life works. So I think we should, take it back to the very beginning of when we started our business and why we started it. And, we seem to put a whole lot of importance on why are we doing what we're doing? Is it important? Yes. How are we going to do what we're doing? What procedures are we going to put in place? And we put a lot of emphasis on the success of a space. But then I think what we need to understand is that for something to be successful and to continue, sometimes it requires us and sometimes it does not. Sometimes it needs to move into a different space. Sometimes it needs to be presented to maybe be run by a board, or maybe it needs to be put into a completely different space. But the whole point is the longevity of what it is that you're building. It becomes your baby. So if you are ill-informed as to what's going on, how is it going on, what is going to be the saving factor of the space that you've built, will it survive? Well, I can pretty much guarantee you that if you're not informed and you need to quickly exit and you are unaware of how to do that, why you're doing that, what the point is, you will do more damage than you will do any good to the very entity that you've been spending your entire life trying to build. And we all know that spaces, they develop their own character, they have their own meaning, they have their own purpose. We destroy that if we're ill-prepared. To me personally, I think there's a bit of a golden thread. The golden thread, if you're looking for information and options, would be knowing the space that you're in, knowing who you're surrounded by, and keeping your attorney and your accountant real close. And preferably have your attorney and your accountant know each other. That would be ideal. And then preferably choose those kinds of connections based on the fact that they actually know your business. Because I think, business nowadays, it becomes so cut and dry that it becomes a procedure. It becomes this, it's lack of life, it's lack of any sort of character, it's lack of any form of empathy. It's just like, this is how it's done, steps 1, 2, and 3. And nobody actually takes what you've built into consideration. Like, oh my goodness me, this person has spent a lifetime building this. How are we going to be part of the process of nurturing it and making sure that it survives, and making sure that a handover process is done correctly, and making sure that the people that it's being handed over to are perhaps liable for certain things? Because me, for one, I would not want to hand over my business to somebody that's going to be like, oh, well, it's mine now, and I'm just not going to do anything. Yeah, it's just going to fail because I'm going to chop it up into little pieces and I'm going to sell it off part by part. If there's no plan in place, you should be able to plan and prepare for the fact that if the person taking over does not meet certain requirements, then there needs to be something in place to protect what's been built. And the best way to do that is know your attorney. Goodness me. I cannot explain to you how, and I'll say life-saving, and I don't mean in the sense of my heart stops and somebody has to revive me. I mean life-saving in the respect that you spend your entire life building something and it takes 10 minutes to destroy it with an absolutely stupid decision where you're ill-informed. So get informed. Even if you never plan to sell or never plan to hand over, it still needs to be in place. There needs to be that plan, so that if something goes wrong, you can literally go, I have something that I can follow that guarantees the success of my space and it guarantees the success of my finances. Because being ill-prepared will shoot you in the foot every time. That's me for now.
I want to maybe comment on that, if I may. I think we've started our discussion of saying exit is about a partial, a complete exit, a handover. But we are missing one of the most obvious points in the discussion, which is what happens if life happens, right? What happens if you become extremely ill, or you are in an unforeseen incident, an accident, and you can't do what you are doing as we are all sitting here right now today. Or heaven forbid, you pass away unexpectedly, no illness, just one of those unfortunate things that just happens in life. The point is, how will anyone start to take over if we haven't been preparing for worst case scenario and building what I know many people refer to as an asset or an asset of value as opposed to a job. Because if we don't have our ducks in a row, we can speak about planned exit or partial exit or getting married, business married to another business or merging. But what about the proverbial tsunami that may be rumbling and we just don't see it coming because our ducks were not in a row? So I think exit sometimes happens by choice and sometimes it happens to you, and we need to be prepared for both. But
I,
yeah, good points, Peter.
I so agree. And I've had the fortune or the industry I leaped into this year has to do with legacy and planning for the unexpected, aka I'm a life insurance agent. And life insurance is not only for people. Life insurance can, I'll be honest with you, every big business has life insurance in it. 1,000%. I could show you a gazillion statistics from banks to everything. Life insurance is key in business. And it's something that a lot of business owners just don't know, especially small to medium business owners that aren't taught that. And I've gotten really educated this year in pursuing my license and stuff and how important it is to, like you said, plan for the unexpected. Um, you know, 12 years ago, I was in a car accident. I couldn't walk for 3 months. Like you never know. So, and there's Hollywood stars that you see that have their estates and their businesses and so forth that are in probate court for, I know one that's been in for 3 years. 3 years they've been in probate court. So nobody can do anything with their stuff, their assets, because they did not set up the structure for things to continue. So that is one of the things as as a financial educator now that I get the privilege of doing is helping people do that. And it's exciting to like help people think that through and make sure they have that in place. So right now I'm only I'm in the US and Canada. The goal will be global. In the next 6 months as we expand. But so yeah, it's so important. And like you said, Nicolene, you don't know. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. And so if you have that piece in your business, people are like, I don't want to plan for the worst case scenario. Well, that's what you're going to hand over to whoever has to deal with things. For sure, for sure. Lesetja, let's bring you in on a conversation.
Hi, thank you, Sondra, and thank you, Nicolene, for how you always simplify these what I call difficult scenarios. And thank you for bringing this one in of the unplanned exit, because personally, I do have one that happened, and it had to happen because it happened. And now when you mention it, I go back and I could have prepared for that, because we know life is not forever, but one could have prepared for it, your wills and who do you bring in next into the business, training them and all that. So it's an exit strategy unplanned, which is, I think, that you're bringing in that as entrepreneurs, we need to be aware of and plan for it. But when I raised my hand, I was going to talk to the planned one. And I think everybody knows the story of this huge supermarket chain that was built by one person because he's the person that built it. And it ran for many years, competed, and was, I think, one of the best supermarket chains that I know.
Mm.
And now they're struggling. They are selling off shops. Where is the owner? was it out of age that he had to give his business over to whoever came in after him and all that? And this is now, I'm not sure if the strategy was wrong or if the people that came after him didn't run it properly. But for such a business to start struggling, I look at it like, this is a flagship kind of store or chain. And for it to struggle now, what went wrong? Was the planning not done correctly? Is it the people that have taken over? Is it because there were clauses that were not correctly put down by the likes of Nicolene and your colleagues in that field to say, should this happen this way, this is where we need to go. Should it happen this way, this is where we need to go. I think maybe just a little question instead of a comment. And that's Lesetja Mokou from Litmok, your business development agents.
That's a very interesting, let's call it a case study. And I think all of us have been watching this space develop. Given the well-known brand, I think many of us in the room know which one you are referring to. And I've actually keenly been keeping an eye on that, because I think it's a very pertinent question, particularly if a business has developed from 1 or 2 stores to a massive chain holding major market share and being family owned and not a big public corporation in more international language. And I think if you look at some of the analysts, there are varying opinions on why we are where we are, because the transitions within the family business context had already started to take place in excess of 10 years ago. A board was formulated and a strategy and separation from founder to the structure had been started. But honestly, in my own opinion, and this is purely my opinion from what I've read from the analysts and watched the space develop, is I personally think that is a very competitive space with a lot of entrants that are serious players now that were not serious players 10 years ago. So the competition has magnified tremendously. We've also seen this particular retail model, particularly post-COVID, completely changing from a in-store physical experience to an online store experience. And those ones who could adapt the quickest with the most efficient system to get product to end user are the ones that have actually been the victors here. So I think it's maybe an oversimplification in this context to say it was a transitionary issue. I think it's a competitive market space and calling for some serious innovation with a rapidly changing consumer expectation, and some just did it better than others. If you look at the history, particularly of the 2 major players being the one who's struggling now and the one who's actually been the victor in the story, they've always been head-to-head on many things. They've always been head-to-head. And for a moment, these guys were ahead for a long, long time, whilst major innovation took place in end user experience or customer experience, in the look and feel and the positioning of the retail outlets, whilst the other one just stayed behind. So I think it's a question of ensuring that even if you have a business that has been around for a long time, right? I think all of us sitting in the room aspire to also wanting to celebrate that 50th birthday of the business or the 60th, etc. And we think once we've gotten there, all the problems that we currently have and all the challenges that we are currently experiencing are no longer issues. I think we must be very careful as entrepreneurs, regardless of how long we are around and how big we become. We should never become too comfortable. We should always challenge ourselves to improve and to stay current and to look constantly at how we can innovate and adapt to give a customer-centric experience or approach that is uniquely ours and uniquely developed to be in line with, what your customer wants and why they actually support you and not your competitor. And never to lose touch with that, because I think at some point we think we've arrived. And the minute we think we've arrived, I say it to young practitioners all the time. The day you sit somewhere and you think, oh, I don't have to listen to this, I know this, you're in trouble, my friend, because then you will start thinking, oh, I know everything, I don't have to learn anymore. And that's in my mind, the beginning of the end. So I think there's a lot of lessons to learn from this story. It's a sad story for many of us, but I think there's a lot of valuable nuggets in there for us.
Thank you. Thank you. The two things I took from that is, one, make sure you're always learning because things change, and be adaptable. Two, always be reviewing because like you just said, things pivot quickly, which is why, of course, I'm very strong on quarterly reviews. And this is the reason why you don't know until you know. Knowledge is power. Applied knowledge is success. So you have to get the knowledge, where are you at, where you're going, and then what do you need? And I can honestly say, there's been many topics on the show that I've been like, oh, I really need to apply that to my own business. And then I think sometimes we get in the weeds of we're working in our business and not on our business. And that is one of the places that people are like, and I'll attest, I've been there, done that. I'm guilty of it. And because I know even in the US, we have a thing right now, we have to file blah, blah, blah by the end of the year. And it's, 5 weeks to the end of the year. And I haven't done it yet. It's been everywhere. It's not that I don't know, it's me doing it. So making sure you know and doing it, and having your resources, AKA a tribe, knowing where you can go to get the information. I'm always big also as a coach, just going, I have resources. That is not something that I lack. I have resources. It's a choice if I use them, but it also helps me to help other people, is because I'm like, here. I had an amazing conversation with somebody this morning. And I was like, as soon as we got off, I was like, oh, wait, I have blah, 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 all these resources that we can pull in to make this adventure opportunity successful by, knowing that we have resources. And I'm super excited that. So Peter, come on in.
Yeah, I think I'm going to mention something based on an experience. I think I'll do it like third person. So we spend our entire lives building a brand, or we build this brand, and a brand is viewed by others in a very particular way, and we work very hard to keep that opinion kind of edged into the minds of the people that we serve. When they think of our brand, they think of it in a very particular way. And sometimes to get ahead, which is something that entrepreneurs strive to do. We strive to get ahead. Sometimes we need to align ourselves with other brands. And we align ourselves with other brands, and the two brands align because their values align, and the choices that they've made to date align. Everything about the two spaces just align, and it's going to be great for both brands to align in that particular way. But much like life, things that align at certain points seem to unalign, and we need to be prepared for that. And how do two brands stepping into one space, how do they separate without doing damage to each other? And I've seen this happen, and I've experienced this. I've had to line up my brand with another brand, And in the beginning, it was great. And after a while, the other brand was like, we're going to do it this way. We don't want you doing that anymore. I'm like, but hold on a second, that doesn't line up with what we're supposed to be doing. So the answer is no, we're not going to be doing that. And then the two brands start bumping heads. And the next thing you know, there's this tear that happens where the two brands just now want to box each other instead of actually supporting each other. So even having a strategy in place and a plan in place before two brands do merge into one space, that if there is a tearing and if there is a knocking of heads, A, how are we going to deal with it? B, how are we going to separate those two brands in a supportive manner in such a way that both brands leave unscathed, unscarred, undamaged? Because the last thing you want to do is have two brands join together and destroy each other. It happens. It happens all the time. And I've been in that position where I've had to have that difficult conversation with somebody else that has their baby and their brand and go, look, we've come to this particular place, and if we're not careful, we're going to destroy each other. We're going to cause a lot of harm and a lot of damage. So what is it that we need to do for each other so that I can support you in the separation of these two brands, and you can support me, and we can separate in such a way that I cause you no harm and you cause me no harm. But in order to do that, it needs to be put in place before the two brands even meet. And I think that's the part, that preparation. If something goes wrong, there is a plan in place that okay, so we're all upset and we all have the things we want to say, but if we go back to the plan, then we have already pre-agreed that if something goes wrong, this is the method that we are going to use. So let's drop the anger, let's drop the, that animosity, let's drop that whole thing, and let's go right back to the original plan that we both decided that we would use, and let's go through it step for step and make sure that we are both safe. Because I've seen people throw caution to the wind and go, I'm just going to get upset and I'm just going to say what I have to say and do what I feel like I need to do, and I'm going to destroy my brand in the process, and I'm going to destroy somebody else's brand too. Or the public will look at this little war and go, let's pick a side. Let's pick a side. Which brand are we going to support? Which one do we feel is right? And what people feel and what is sometimes is two different things. So if you are not prepared and you are partnering your brand with other brands, have the plan in place. If something goes wrong, it can even be set up to a point. If something goes wrong, we have already agreed on a particular mediator that we will bring in, that as we separate the brands, this particular mediator that has no skin in either game will come in and then filter us through this process of us doing this the right way, and then in a supportive way. For me, it was a question of joining into a meeting with a separate brand and showing my support for the separation of the two brands. That as we separate, that I'm still available to go, what is it that you need from me to ensure that your future as a brand is successful? And I had to show that support in order to save my own brand at the same time. But these things need to be put in place. And if you don't have the right people that can see these things before they happen, then by all means, just jump into business and do what you want to do and, throw caution to the wind. But it generally, it does not work. It doesn't work. So have these plans in place. If you don't have them in place and something is about to go wrong, get it in place real quick. Like real quick. I mean, like I'd pick up the phone and be like, Nicolene, I think I'm going to die. I don't know what to do. But have something in place, whether it's a person, whether it's a planned process, whether it's a pre-agreed upon step-by-step instruction manual as to we will do this step for step the right way. You know, how are we going to make these decisions? Who are going to make these decisions? It needs to be cast and set in stone. And just because it's planned that way, it doesn't mean that it needs to work out that way. I think that if you step into joining your brand with another brand and they can see that you are serious about the success of both spaces and the security and safety of both spaces by having a plan in place to protect yourself and them, then people generally feel more comfortable joining the two brands because they know that the exit strategy from either side is pre-planned and designed to be safe and cause no harm. So it just adds value to your space. So why not do it anyway? Just a thought.
No, thank you for that. I think that is extremely helpful and a number of good points. Maybe I just want to cast a focus on it from a slightly different, but yet a similar angle. And that is, remember that particularly if we are talking about collaboration or joining with another brand for the current purpose, remember that if we do any of those things, and even I want to dare to say when we start employing people to work in our businesses, or we bring in a business partner in some other way, or we are looking at building this exit strategy, we would want to build strategies that people stay because they want to stay, not because they are completely afraid of the destruction that will occur if this doesn't work out the way we hoped it would. So maybe just putting it slightly differently. I know we always go to lawyers, and I see this every day in my world, where people approach me and say, I want to do this deal, and I want to make it so hard for them to leave that we stay there perpetually. And in many instances, my response is, do you really think that has longevity from a profitability point of view? And I don't just mean money in the bank. I believe the money in the bank will naturally follow if people are in a space where they feel they are contributing to society in a meaningful way. We are in alignment with your own strengths and talents and aspirations. Where that convergence happens, you don't have to threaten anyone to stay, even by innuendo of how difficult this puzzle is going to be to take apart. So I often caution clients to go into relationships with that. And I even say this when I get comments like, but if we plan an exit, that means we don't think it's going to work. No, it means we really hope it does. And if it doesn't, we are not going to bomb each other's countries, proverbially speaking, until there's nothing left and no one walks out a victor. Even if you say to me, let us go to court and I want you to sue this person and we need to teach them a lesson and that kind of language, I think we need to be realistic. If we go to court and we do that kind of thing, let's be very real, and very few lawyers will actually say this out loud, but I'm going to say this. No one walks out a winner in that scenario. Even if you are the successful litigant, no one walks out of that scenario a winner. Why? Because there are relationships that have been completely obliterated. It will be the bridge you shall never walk across again, even if potentially you don't know it now, but you'll find out you actually had to walk over it again. And then remember, it's actually a super small environment. Even if we feel, but hey, I'm just a small fish in this global sea now. If we really think about it, the tools we use, even the tools we are using as we are sitting in the show today, make us so interconnected. And I have so many meetings across the globe with people I'm connected with on LinkedIn, for example. And it actually is astounding how many people know other people, even if it's not in the same country. So we need to be super careful to think, because I'm a small fish in a big global pond. No one will notice if I have this major fallout with someone else. I think that's super dangerous to think like that. Mediation is underestimated. It's a fantastic tool. Get yourself a good mediator who is aimed at helping you navigate things that are super difficult to navigate when we are upset, because you know what? We are in business, but we are actually human at the core of this. So obviously we are disappointed when things don't work out the way we want them to. Obviously, all of us go into these brand expansions hoping this is going to work out in the super cool way that we thought it would. And of course, it's a blow. It's a low blow if it doesn't. So you're disappointed, and maybe you feel somewhat betrayed because this person didn't quite show up the way you thought they would. And that makes it super difficult. So having someone to help you just look at it from a factual point of view and having that roadmap, it's almost like being lost in the jungle. Having that roadmap map and that compass to get you out of there. That's what this is that we are saying. So yeah, sorry, I got a bit carried away there.
It's okay. That's okay. And actually, it was brought up in the chat about, like you said, employees or contractors or the people that are in your business, especially if you change directions or bring in collaborations and things, and checking with them, because if they don't agree or are not on the same page, then your intent maybe to grow your business could fail because the people are not supporting you that you have on your team, because they're like, okay, that's not the direction I want to go into. For sure, for sure. Mr. Lesetja, come on in.
All right. I was asked a question earlier. It's a joke, a riddle, whatever we can call it. And the question was, how do you plan a party in outer space? No, how do you celebrate your party in outer space? And the answer to that is, we plan it. Okay, you can twist it to say planet, but we plan it. So for me, what we are saying here is, in everything that you do, in every business that you go into, in every collaboration or partnership or JV you go into, plan for the eventualities. Don't plan to say, yes, I'm joining this, and not really think about what if this doesn't happen. I mean, we all have car insurances, but we don't intentionally go out there and crash. You know, we play it safe wherever we can. We drive carefully so that we don't have to be in that situation, but we keep on paying our insurance. Now, if we can, before you even go into joining companies or into a collaboration of some sort, what if you get advice from people to say, this is what you can do, this is where it can go, and when that comes, this is where you can go. And I think within the tribe, we've got people that can lead and guide you. You know, so consultation for me is very, very important, especially when you're planning. So consult when you're planning so that you are not caught with your pants down. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I think that's so true. That's so true. Peter, come on in.
Should we give Mikey an opportunity to speak?
Yeah. Go ahead, Mikey. I'm sorry.
That's good.
Hi guys. Yeah, thanks for Peter. I do apologize for being a bit late. I just rushed, got home in time and joined. But just going over the topic and hearing a bit, just something I want to share and add in that it's something I actually learned. A true entrepreneur, there's a difference between an entrepreneur and a business owner or business person, in that an entrepreneur looks at businesses and isn't, or minimizes the emotional attachment to that business or that personal attachment to it, in that they are able to let go and move on. A business person, a business owner per se, they will hold on to the business. It's theirs, it's their baby, they grew it up, and letting go is difficult, or maybe not in the best interest holistically. You can be very successful in following both types of ventures. You can be a singular business owner throughout your life, be very wealthy and successful, all is well. But you can't call yourself an entrepreneur, because entrepreneurs move on. They never really truly stick on one business. They always move on to a new adventure. Entrepreneurs about new adventures, new ventures, and maybe having some stake. They could still retain some stake in the older businesses, but the thing is, the important aspect is to move forward, new businesses, and move on. And it's important to be able, in order to facilitate that, is truly see the business for it as a business and a business model, not investing too much or much of your personal emotion or attachment to it. A lot easier said than done, granted, especially if you're an entrepreneur who started a particular business up on your own, and now you're at the crossroads where you need to move on and let go of that business, either completely or partially. But that is what an entrepreneur is all about. And yeah, you gotta take it as with your stride. Just my 2 cents worth.
Thank you for that. 2 cents worth in response from my end. And this is purely my opinion, right? It's not textbook underwritten, or I don't have a court case that I can cite to substantiate my point. But I think I've over the last 2 decades, I've worked with many business owners and entrepreneurs alike. Some entrepreneurs are what I call serial entrepreneurs. So they would build a business, and it's all about the systems, processes, building a replicable asset. There's no attachment. You're completely correct. But you also get someone who spends their whole life refining a business into different facets. If you look at someone like Mr. Branson, of course, he started with a business, and he elaborated the model by adding different components, almost like a conductor of an orchestra in many ways. There are little parts, and the picture gets refined and refined over time. I don't specifically think there's emotional attachment there, but I think there's a bigger picture motive driving the tweaks that constantly get made, which I personally find extremely intriguing, by how someone's mind must work that dedicates their life to one specific focus that gets elaborated in that way. So I find that extremely fascinating. And then, of course, you have the business owner who is quite happy with having a business. And I know many people describe it as essentially having a job. You just have the worst boss in the world, because it's you yourself. And it's a very harsh person to work for, with a lot of really high standards to attain. So all of those negativities aside, I think we should say to everyone listening in, whether you want to buy, upgrade, and flip, and if that's your thing, that's great, fantastic. If you want to spend your life chiseling a concept and elaborating it, maybe as elaborate as the example I used, or maybe not so much, whatever that means, that's fine too. If you're in a small business or a family business, and you dedicate your life to a cause, and it stays within that closed circle, and that's what aligns to what you would like to achieve, that's also fine. So don't let anyone tell you that the fact that you may have an emotional attachment or you don't want to sell and exit one day. When your time is up, there's a baton that gets transferred, or there's not. We close up shop and we celebrate the achievements that were made. That's fine. I think it goes back to what Sondra said earlier. It goes back to your why. And whether your package is a big multinational, great. Wow, awesome. And if it's in a smaller community context and you've made an impact on your community, I think that's something that we shouldn't say is lesser just because it's not at that grand scale. I think our businesses should be relevant in our communities and the customers that we serve. I always say to the young lawyers that join our firm, you can't control the outcome of things, but you can at least go into every situation that life throws you in our profession and go in with the view of making it better. Even if you can't fix all of it, don't beat yourself up, but at least if you go in thinking, this is a really messed up situation, I'm going to do my very best to make it better. If you go in with that viewpoint, I think you can only build from strength to strength.
I love that. I love that. I think intention is the word I'm thinking of. What is your intention as a person and as a business owner? Because yeah, and relationships too, because I think I work with people that they don't always they put business before relationship, and I will cringe sometimes, be like, okay, but they're people. Like your business is based on people. I don't care what you sell or what you do or what you have. It's based on there is a relationship to people, and you have to keep that in spect. Our time is closing. Nicolene, super, super grateful for joining us. I know, again, this is definitely a topic that Peter and I were like, yeah, we pass the baton to the experts for a really, really, really good reason. So as we're wrapping up, last words real quick, and then how can people find you if they'd like to connect?
I think we've spoken about many things tonight. Well, tonight in my jurisdiction. I think there are a couple of golden nuggets. It's about intent. I think be clear on why you want to do what you want to do as you start your business, and maintain that sense of clarity. And it's not always easy, but maintain it as you transition and you grow into potentially exiting, whatever that means, partial, whole, planned, unplanned. We've looked at different scenarios tonight, and have someone guide you. To mind a lawyer, an accountant, I agree, they must speak to one another, speak each other's languages. There's no point in having a skilled multidisciplinary professional team, but they don't understand each other. That's just completely counterintuitive. So I think surround yourself, and even if the building blocks are somewhat small as we start out, don't forget to continue to lay the bricks layer by layer as the business needs. And as each relationship gets forged, we don't aim to lock people in with fear. We aim to create an environment where we can exchange value and people stay because they want to stay. That is how good business gets done. And if we look at anyone who's been super successful, that's the key ingredient. The quality of our relationships, how we put them together, how we manage them, measure them. And if they become unhealthy, not dysfunctional, unhealthy, then we do something about it before it becomes completely dysfunctional. So connecting with me, preferred place is LinkedIn. So I'll drop my link into the chat. Please connect with me there. I would love to get to know those a bit better that maybe didn't get to engage with us. And then, of course, our website at schoeman-louw.co.za. We offer a free 30-minute discovery call. So if you think got some legal ducks to put in a row, and you need someone to help you find that row and maybe even find a few of the ducks, I'm happy to assist.
I love that. I love that. Thank you. Thank you. So, so grateful. The joke of my family is we don't have ducks, we have pigeons, but I just the joys of five kids and 4 grandbabies make that life complicated. Peter, did you want to go, or did you want me to go? Then you go, because you had your hand raised.
I think just very quickly, I think that there's plans that we make, and there's plans that others make, and then there's the plan in the middle. And I think it's a good rule to actually stick by. If you know that you're in business, you know you've got a plan to protect it because you are its protector. Regardless of what type of business it is or what type of entrepreneur, you always have a plan to protect it. But you also know that others have plans to protect their spaces too. So, and sometimes those plans don't match each other. So finding that space in the middle, and I think that's where people like Nicolene come in. Nicolene is the space in the middle, the safe space. And I think we should all have 3 sets of plans. Our plan, the plan in the middle, and understand the plan of the person on the other side. So I think if we can get that right, we can step into business in major spaces and feel safe. And I think it's just a good way to do business. That's just my 2 cents.
All right, love that, Peter. A couple of things, housekeeping things. We have 2 live shows in December, and then we will take our holiday break. We will definitely repurpose some content from previous shows. Of course, you can always watch old shows, get caught up on everything. We are really excited to look forward to 2025 and making some tweaks, not any major changes, but some tweaks to, of course, improve the show, because that is our goal, is to improve and give you the most value for your time, because it is definitely your time. So definitely want to make sure we shout out Susan, who helps us do pretty much everything in the background. The covers, the schedule. She does put our LinkedIn links in the show notes. So if you come back to the show notes, she usually gets them out in 24 to 48 hours usually. You can find all our links there, or you can look at our previous show. She also turns our show into a podcast on Spotify. So please follow us. Listen to, I think it's 3. I tested it there. It's 3 shows. You have to listen to 3 shows, and then you can do a rating. So we'd be super grateful if you could do that. I do have a workshop in December 10th at the exact same time on a Tuesday as a show, to make it easy, timeline all over the world. And we're going to work on life and business hacking performance workshop. So just a twist on the quarterly review. So definitely check that out. I did put the link in the live chat on YouTube, and it'll be in the show notes also, because Susan's been helping me out with that. My name is Sondra. I'm the owner of Get It Done Coaching, and I help you improve your performance, meet your goals, and everything in between. Peter, why don't you take us out?
Awesome. So it's come to that time of the show again where we have to unfortunately say goodbye. But we'll leave with the famous saying from Nicolene Schoeman-Louw, may all your wildest entrepreneurial dreams